Hello, everybody, and welcome to X to Y, Z, and A podcast. I'm your host, and you can call me Pops. What is X to Y, Z, and A? Those letters represent different generations, four different generations. X being the generation that I'm from, Y and Z are the two generations that my children fall in, and A is the generation of my grandchildren. So, part of who I am and what I do is I identify issues and I try to fix them. So, for quite a while now, I've been reflecting back upon how I raised my children and the world that they face today. And it concerns me that perhaps me and my generation were not aware of the significant changes that were going to influence our children. And I don't feel like my generation, prepared you for the different challenges that you face today. So, in order to try to fix that, I came up with this idea of a podcast. This is not your typical podcast. I am not your typical podcast host. I don't really know if this is going to work for everybody out there. I doubt it, but I want to, if I can reach one person, if I can help one person, then that's what I'm here for. I'm not here to make money. I'm not here to become famous. I'm not here to be the influence guru or anything of that nature. I'm here because I feel that I can help. I feel like I can provide some guidance. I feel like I can have lots of experience to share. I have a unique way of looking at things. My point of view is maybe different from the mainstream media that you're used to or social media that you're used to, and that's okay. I hope I can appeal to not just the X, Y, and Z, the Y, Z, and A generations, but I hope that I can inspire other Xers and even baby boomers that feel like maybe they didn't pass down the things they should have passed down. Maybe they have some insight that they can share, some experiences and expertise that they can help on this podcast. So I really want to reach out to everybody. And so what am I trying to accomplish? In my experience, there are a couple of things that I feel like maybe we didn't pass down well. And what I mean by that is, there's there's two main ways of processing information. There's the educated, analytical, scientific type of processing information. And then the most common is just that. It's called common sense. And, I've heard common sense as a joke. Where did it go? What happened to it? I grew up, my father did not have a high education, but he was a very intelligent man, and he had the ability to figure things out by just using common sense. So I started looking into this, common sense thing, and I'm like, okay, I grew up, my dad taught me how to use common sense, so how did I miss that? How did I not pass that down to my kids? Well, as I started researching that, I discovered that, most people feel like they use common sense. What is common sense? Well, it's starting out with a building block of basic information that is common among most all people. And I think that is where the problem lies, is the building blocks that I grew up with versus the building blocks that I passed on, the building blocks that you have been exposed to. Those basic things that we start our process of processing input is different. And I think that kind of bothers my generation a little bit, because we're like, okay, what you do and how you process information and the conclusions you come to is nowhere near mine. And how is that? Why is that? So I have been doing some research. I plan on having quite a few episodes discussing, the process, but mainly I would like to address the building blocks themselves. We have to have basic things that we can all agree upon, or at least most of us, that we can use as a building block going forward. Because when we have this, it gives us confidence in the way we process information, the decisions that we make. In this day and age of computers and social media and everything, especially now with AI, right? I mean, nobody wants to figure things out. They just want the answer. You can go in and you can type up anything and get an instant answer. If you're in a conversation with somebody and you say, hey, what was so-and-so who played in so-and-so movie or whatever? Oh, yeah, I remember that movie, but I can't remember who it was. Well, we just pick out our phone and we type it in, we Google it, and therefore we have the answer. Well, in a lot of instances, you can do that. In a lot of instances, you can just get the answer, and that's fine. But when you don't understand the process of how to get that answer, then you're dependent upon the internet and not upon yourself. And I think that has led to a lot of issues in our society, especially among young people. There's a lot of things that, young people face today that I never faced. I never grew up, well, I mean, maybe in a way, but I never grew up saying, okay, I didn't get this many likes on a post, right? Because I didn't post anything when I was a kid. I never realized that was going to be an issue for my children and for you. I never realized that, that social acceptance, having a certain amount of likes or hearts or whatever. I never realized that was going to be an issue when I was raising my kids up. But it is an issue. It really feeds into your self-confidence. It really, brings about anxiety and fear and all kinds of things that you guys face every day. And it's because you're dependent upon social media, you're dependent upon what others think, and you're not confident in your own ability to figure things out on your own. You're always like, okay, so what's the group thought, right? And this is something that I've studied in my professional side, is groupthink and how influenced people who have a different idea can be influenced to go along with the crowd because they don't want to be the oddball, right? And then we have a lot of oddballs. We have a lot of people that are different, and they're trying desperately to find others like them, and they form groups, and so there's so many different things coming at you. And I want to go back to basics that go before internet, before social media, because I think if you can understand those things, it will help you to become grounded again in your own abilities. All right. And so this is the reason for this channel. Now, what qualifies me to do this? Well, like I said, I'm an X-generation person. I was born in the 60s, grew up in the 70s and 80s, started my career and my family in the 80s and 90s, even into the 2000s. I've gone through several career changes. I am educated. I have a master's degree from Texas A&M. I have owned my own business. I've worked for Fortune 300 company. I currently am a professional. Um, can't really say exactly what. Hopefully one day I can explain that. Um, I I came from, in case you haven't been able to determine from my southern drawl and accent, I grew up in the state of Alabama here in the South. I was raised up on a farm in rural Alabama. Never really thought I'd ever go to college. Didn't really see the need or the desire to go. When I was growing up, the only reason why you went to college was to play football. And I was not, even though I played high school football, I enjoyed it tremendously. We had a very successful team, but I was not talented enough that Bear Bryant was going to come knocking on my door. So college was really not an option for me. I joined the Army coming out of high school, and that was the best decision I ever made as far as my career goes. It just opened up doors, opportunities. It taught me so much: how to be a man, how to take responsibility, how to accept challenges, how to break through barriers. What do you do when you hit the wall? And I will go into some of these things in further episodes down the road about, how to overcome, how to persevere, how to find inner strength, how to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and keep going. There's a lot of things that I want to share with you guys, a lot of experiences, struggles and things that I overcome as a person, things that I still have a challenge with, things that I still desire to overcome. It's never, you never get there, okay? It's always a journey. And I'm going to share something with you for just a second. There's a saying, and I want you to listen, zone in on this. It's very simple, but when you really get it, it's tremendously powerful. A human being, and I'll make reference to man or mankind when I talk about human beings, and it's not gender related, it's just in general mankind. But when man is happiest and has the most joy, not when you accomplish a goal or a task, but it's in the process. That is when you're the most happiest. Yes, reaching that goal, getting to that, final accomplishment, winning that game, whatever the case is, it is a huge emotional high. Your heart's pumping, the blood flow is running through your veins like crazy. But then it's over. And when you reflect back, it was the process of where you started, with all that doubt and fear if you would ever be able to achieve the goal over here. But it was that process of meeting different challenges, that process of overcoming, that process of, when you get knocked back and you regroup and you find another way, and when you dig down inside and you say, I will not be denied, that is really when you're the happiest. That is when, that process is what gives you your joy. And I want you to remember that, right? It's not the end goal that brings you the most joy, but the process of achieving it, okay? So we will go, I got all kinds of experiences like that, challenges along my path that I overcame and witnessed. Being in the military, I witnessed people doing, things I never thought humanly possible. Also, so I'm a disabled vet. I've been a disabled vet since I was 27. due to an injury during the Gulf War. And, when I got out of the military, I started working for a Fortune 300 company. I started out in production and manufacturing industry and worked my way up into management. Did that for 3 years and decided that I wanted something different. But I had, children at that time, and I needed to be able to provide for my family. So I got my CDLs, became a truck driver. I drove a truck for two companies for a year, and then decided to start my own business. I always wanted to, had that entrepreneurial spirit. I wanted to start my own business. And so I started a trucking company, a transportation company. And I did that for 5 years. It was quite successful, I might add. I had a great reputation within the transportation industry. My name was on the side of the door of that truck. And so I worked that way, and I taught my employees to work that way. So be proud of what you do and do it right. And because my name, my word, that was really what I had going for me. And when the word got out that you could depend on my company, then having the work, was not a problem. I had people that begged me, to move their goods for them because they knew and trusted that it would be there in good shape on time, every time. And that's what I lived up to. And I really enjoyed that business. There were some things that started stirring up that, the government, fuel prices, things like that started cutting into my profit, and I decided to sell my business. During the time that I was running my business, I got a phone call. I believe I was in Washington State. This young lady called me and said, "Hey, you're a disabled veteran." I said, "Yes, ma'am, I am." She said, "Do you know you qualify for vocational rehabilitation?" I said, "I have no clue what that is." So she explained it to me, and she said, "The Army will pay you to go to school." I said, "Really? Okay, wow." She said, "Well, are you interested in going to college?" And I said, "Well, I've never really, been that interested in a college education. I always, I grew up learning to, work hard and give a honest day's work for an honest day's pay. But yeah, that does, I'm running my own business. And so, if I could get an education and learn how to run a business a little better, then yeah, I could do that." I said, "But I'm on the road most of the time. So how can I go to college if I'm driving a truck on the road?" And she said, "It's easy. We have a school that's online. You take online classes." And at that time, this was like, early on, and it was an upstart new business and industry. And I wasn't really familiar with it, but I said, "Okay, I'll give it a try. What I got to lose if the Army's paying for it?" So I started doing online classes, and I went from a high school diploma to a 4-year degree in 2 years. I was out of school for almost a year when I started working at my current position, and one of the prerequisites for them was that I have a master's. So they said, "We will send you back to school, and we'll pay you while you're there and pay for your school." So they sent me to Texarkana, Texas, and I attended 2 schools actually while I was there, and I got my master's degree in 13 months, and I've been working for them ever since. And it really just opened the doors for me and expanded my vision of what I could actually possibly do in this world. And so I'm very thankful for that. I've done everything from when I was a teenager, from hauling hay and cutting wood to working in the food industry, fast food and steak houses, and pretty much anything and everything you could think of. I've sold cars, I've sold electronics, I've sold insurance. I was an Amway distributor, okay? And A lot of people laugh about that. I learned a lot when I was in Amway. One of the things that Amway really taught me and helped me to learn was that there's a lot of self-help books out there to build you up, to give you knowledge, to help you, to motivate you to improve yourself. And, that's one thing that I've always had a desire for ever since I was very young, and my parents bought me my first book of World Book Encyclopedias in 1972. That really opened my mind. Here's this country boy, out in the middle of nowhere, access to nothing, and then all of a sudden I get these encyclopedias, and everything is right there in front of me. I traveled to France, to Italy, to Europe, all over, to Asia. I fell in love with Asian cultures. It stimulated me to take martial arts when I was a teenager. Just all kinds of, I could see these pictures of castles and, ancient ruins and all that. I mean, here in North Alabama, out on the farm, you don't see anything like that. And so it really opened my mind to the possibilities. And, I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what I was doing. I was one of those people that, I never knew what I wanted to do when I grew up. I just jumped on the first bus coming by and see how far it took me. And then when I got tired of that road, then I jumped on another bus and went a different direction. And that was basically how I went through most of my life. And I was always had that thirst for knowledge and was always trying to self-educate, but I really never had a plan, and now that I've been, doing logistics work for so long, that's what I do is I plan. I look out ahead. I look at the big picture. I break down, here I am. Here's where I want to be, and this is the path I need to take. What are the gaps? Do I need to build some bridges here? Do I need to deep dive into this or deep dive into that? What kind of issues am I going to face? How can I solve those issues ahead of time to keep on track? And so I learned all that. And now, I'm looking at my, I'm in my third phase of life, and I'm going to explain all that in a couple episodes. The phases of life and the differences in generations and so forth. But I'm in my third phase of life, and my fourth phase is coming up pretty soon, and I'm already planning for that. This is really the first stage of my life that I've really planned for. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go out with a bang. I want to do it my way. And so I'm planning for that. And it's kind of different, because the rest of my life I was just, okay, this looks good, let's do it, And, I know there's some people out there that they've known for years what they want to do. They know how they want to get there. They've already laid out a plan, and that's great. If you can do that at a young age, more power to you. For those of you that fall into my category where you really have so many interests that you don't know what you want to pursue, or you don't know what direction to go or what's best for you, then I'm here to give you hope, basically. I hope I can. Now, there's one other thing I would like to share about myself. And I want to say this up front, is that I come to you and I will be presenting a lot of my things that I want to discuss with you from a biblical worldview. Now, if you don't know what that is, you can Google it. AI has a very good grasp on what a biblical worldview is. I'm not going to say I agree with everything, but pretty good. There are other worldviews out there. And you can even ask AI to compare the different worldviews and show you the main categories. And when you look out at the end of, what the expectation of each worldview is, The biblical worldview is the only one that has a positive end. When I saw that, that blew my mind. Now, I'm not naive, okay? I've been around the world. I spent 4 years in Europe. I've been to, I don't know, 9 or 10 different countries. I've been in all 48 continental states. I've been in every major city. Got a lot of experience meeting people. And I do come to you from a biblical worldview, but I don't judge you, okay? The Bible tells me that I'm not authorized to judge anybody, and that's not what I'm here for, okay? I want to say that up front. No matter where you are, no matter how you view things, no matter what your identity is, I don't care. Yes, I'm from the South. I am not racist. I am not a womanizer. I'm not. There's a lot of things I'm not. But one thing I am is I'm a born-again Christian. And I want to just come to you straight up and honest, genuine. I'm not trying to portray myself in anything other than what I am. I will also say, I don't know everything. I wish I did, but then again, I'm like, no, I don't want to know everything. My head's already too full as it is. You know, it's already spinning way too fast for me to keep track of, and so I don't want to know everything. I do strive always to learn more. I strive always to become a better person every day. Every day, I try to self-analyze at the end of the day. How was my day today? What did I accomplish? Where did I mess up? How can I do it better tomorrow? I've always been like that, you know, and I think that's part of my success in life is that I was never satisfied with who I was or where I was at. I always had a lot of questions. Always. I always like, why is this, you know? I'm sure when I was young, I bugged my parents beyond anything they were willing to or desired to put up with because I was so curious and inquisitive. I was always asking, why is this? Why is that? How's this work? How's that work? Fortunately for me, I grew up in a very loving home where my parents spent a lot of time explaining things to me and trying to teach me things. All right. Now, I didn't grow up in a perfect world. My parents divorced when I was 10. And I will share more of my story as we go. And I'll be honest with you, it turned my world upside down. It changed me forever. I didn't realize until about 15 years ago just how bad that event in my life kind of messed me up. When I discovered that I have abandonment issues. And which causes me to have a certain type of behavior or cyclic type behavior. So, you know, I'm not perfect. I don't know everything. I don't have all the answers. But part of what I want this podcast to be is, you know, to be a learning experience for you from my perspective, and I want to learn from you from your perspective. You know, I have children. I have 7 kids and 10 grandkids with 1 on the way currently. And I expect it to continue to grow. And when I talk to my children, you know, they give me a different perspective. And sometimes they really teach me something new. And I, you know, I enjoy that. I like learning from my kids. Because I think when I learned from my children, I realized that I gave them enough for them to go and learn and expand on what I could give them. And now they're able to provide me the feedback to allow me to grow. And so that is my desire for this podcast, is to share what I can, to help where I can. If nothing else, but just to create some thought process in your mind to maybe send you in some different directions than you would normally go to investigate and learn something for yourself to make you a better person. There's a lot of challenges in this life that I think you have an unfair or a disadvantage because my generation didn't prepare you correctly. We had no idea what the internet was going to do for our children. We had no idea. Social media wasn't a thing until it was too late to catch up and figure it out. My kids were already grown, so yeah, my goal is for us all to learn. I hope that people will provide comments, reach out to me. If you would like to be on the show, in a few episodes from now, I'll explain how you can do that. I will welcome you. If your point of view is totally opposite of mine, that's okay. I'm not here to fight with anybody. I'm not here to argue with anybody. I am willing to listen to your point of view. All I ask in return is for you to be willing to listen to my point of view. Let's find some common ground that we can work with, and then we can expand and grow from there. If you have any ideas for the show, let me know. You can put them in the comments below. I will try to stay a couple videos ahead, so you always got another one to link on within a couple days apart or so. I don't know how that's going to go. I'm not very good at video editing or anything like that, so it's going to be very raw. I don't have a teleprompter. I don't memorize what I'm going to say. I do have a few notes that I have laying around that I can kind of glance down to, and that's it. Everything else is coming right straight from here. One other thing I will tell you is that I am not here to sell you on anything. I am not here to make you anything because I can't. My belief is God's the only one that can change you. And so I'm not here to change you. I'm here to just really be a friend. Just sit down and share ideas, share experiences, and try to help each other get through this world the best we can. So thank you for listening to my introductory video, and I hope to see you again soon and perhaps make a new good friend. Thank you very much and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.